That's okay. No, I'm admitting people into. Anything else you need to make sure? Okay. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
So, the people going to listen to our comment is who? Or what?
I am an engineering firm in the project. And then city consultant, focus team is their supports and their financial. We do have some part-time staff. This is a focus meeting that's definitely a process.
Is there a council? Is there?
I'm going to clarify that too.
Yeah.
Not council meetings.
Yes, yes.
I need to set one.
Meeting, or is there, so I wasn't here.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
And I'm just here to press buttons.
That's all.
I'm not technology, so we have. Oh,
Of course. You know Melissa?
Yeah, I was in orchestra with her. She played.
Smart.
Oh, nice to meet you. I recognize you with the mask and the hat. So.
This is Ruby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know when she was away, you know, a lot of people have oceans. They are.
Yeah.
They have to tax those too, like Melissa. Oh my God, there's another one. They're all running to see her.
Yeah, because I was probably in all the band and orchestra and speech, debating.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was with me like the entire time of high school. Yeah. Yeah, and I was probably there too. I was probably there, same activities. Yeah. State finals, everything. Yeah.
That's why I get looking.
Yeah.
And I know.
Yeah, it's a unique name, so it's hard to forget.
Well, I'm not a Ruby anymore. I'm De La Rosa. I dropped the Ruby.
Okay.
It's a very unusual class.
Yeah.
And they say that I'm the same thing. What's the other one?
Orchestra was then band, color guard. She was in all of that.
I know, she does.
Yeah.
I went to send my application for certificate. I used to be in the parliament.
When did you turn in your application? I can follow up with that. Let our staff know. Let's see if your application's on file.
Okay.
If it's not, we'll send you. Yeah, please do. And then I can follow up.
And the mayor would kick me out when I went to Oakland. Now I'm back to
Okay, all right. Well, definitely look for your application. Not one. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely look at see if your application's on file. If not, we'll give you that. Yeah, so they're going to do the presentation. Yeah, that was an emergency or something like that. And then even if you did decide to do it soon, you have to revisit it every 30 days. I know, that's where we're at. So, are you coming tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Can't allow people to public comment. You can't allow public comment. Even if there's like other good. Yeah, I can tell you all about it. I can send you a draft letter. Yes. Currently, there's 4 people, including us.
7 days to know. I don't think that he would do that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being patient waiting. Good evening. Thank you for being patient waiting while a few people were still coming in. My name is Dara Woods. I'm the project manager for the Beachfront Improvement Feasibility Study. Tonight, we are having a focused community sports and recreation meeting. Just want to go over a couple of things. Appreciate you coming tonight. It is a larger forum, and so I don't want it to seem too expansive, but I wanted to receive the feedback we got last time and acknowledge that this is our project-specific meeting, so we don't have council. It's not a commission or a committee meeting. It's an opportunity for us to present some information and really just listen, focused on this particular item. We do not have comment cards or we don't have request to speak cards tonight. So when we're done with our presentation, you're welcome to come up and provide any comments you'd like. Last time, I know our public comment was 2 minutes. We've, put it back to our normal 3 minutes. And so appreciate, again, you coming tonight. There are comment cards for anything you say tonight if you want to reiterate it in a comment card, but we'll be taking notes. I was informed by Wayne that there are refreshments outside, so he wanted me to relay that as well. But with that, we'll jump right in. We have a 15 to 20-minute presentation. Some of you have potentially already seen it. It's been similar to all the commission and committee meetings we've been presenting so far, because we know that there's some new attendees tonight or might be listening in on Zoom. But we do have a couple slides in there with some kind of key topics we wanted to ask and spark some conversation for tonight. This meeting, as well as the next meeting on the 28th, is available on Zoom. So you're welcome to share that information. The links are online for anyone that wants to view it that can't be here. And then I think with that, I'm not missing anything. We'll dive right into the presentation. Our consultant, the city's consultant, Steve Johnson from Johnson Favreau, is here to do a quick presentation. And then we're really just here to listen. A couple things I do want to just acknowledge, because we are talking about sports and recreation. I know this last year or two has been a little different with COVID. And so I know the programming at the Junior Seau Community Center has been a little different than normal, but we do want to hear your thoughts and your feedback on the programming at that facility. So with that, I will defer to Steve and we'll start.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Steve Johnson with Johnson Favreau. We're the architects tasked with this study, working with you. I want to reiterate something that Dara just said. This isn't a council meeting or a commission meeting. A simple way to put it is it's really almost like a workshop where I get to hear most directly from you on a very, hopefully a focused topic having to do with the sports and recreation programming for the community center and the beachfront. So it's really, I'm hoping we can even have a conversation where I can just get more and more information. That's really the point of this for me and city staff to hear and learn from you on that. So as I said, it is a focused meeting on community sports and recreation, because programming really really drives planning and form. And the other thing about planning is planning for the future. You don't plan for the moment you're in today. Buildings take a long time to restore or to renovate. You plan for the future, and then you have to plan for the future beyond that. So I'm going to encourage you to really be thinking expansively as you consider these questions about programming. And what I mean by programming, it's really what are the things, the actual classes, the actual sports camps, the outdoor activities, the recreation activities associated that the city provides. What are the things that are provided there now that you like? What are the things that you would like to see added there? So I just wanted to sort of tee that up. That's why this is a focused meeting on that subject. So hearing what works, what doesn't work. You of course can talk about anything, but just I think a goal most helpful to us is hear what can be improved, if anything, to hear from you on that. As Dara said, for those that are new to the meetings, I'm going to give you a little very brief overview of the study. Many of you I've seen here before, so this is going to be a repeat of stuff that you've heard. Basically, the reason for the study is really that buildings do age. These buildings built in, or the facilities in particular, the community center built in 55, the amphitheater built in 37. All cities and all communities have to plan for what they do of how to repair buildings, how to restore them, how to make them safe, how to make them sustainable as we go forward, how to improve accessibility for the disabled. These are the kind of things that all communities have to consider when you look at aging facilities and when you consider restoration or fixing those facilities, is how to bring them up to current standards, indeed improve access to these buildings. But the focus again tonight, as that bottom point says, there's an opportunity here to take a closer look at programming. What are the classes? What are the things that you do in this facility that are important to you? And that's for us to hear tonight. We are as well, even though it's not the focus tonight, we are looking at certainly the amphitheater as well. And we know that both of these facilities, both the amphitheater as well as the community center, are significant cultural resources for this community. In other words, this is a place where you actually gather as a community with each other and know each other and learn about the diversity of your community. So we know that there's great sentimental value attached to these facilities. They're quite important that way. And we also know that it's crucial to maintain these existing functions. It's not as though anyone in this room or in this community wants any of the functions that are currently there to go away. If anything, it's to enhance and expand those functions. I want to just reiterate, there's not a plan to tear down any of these facilities and replace them with any other uses other than what's there. In other words, no facility will replace these facilities with any alternate or additional uses. That's definitely a given or an assumption of this program, and certainly not tearing it down for parking, which was some statement that was out there that we definitely want to clear up. We are going to also be maintaining the open space, because it's just the facilities are important, but it's the open space as well that's important. You live at the beach for a very good reason. You enjoy the vista, you enjoy the open area, you recreate, you exercise, you use the stairs to run for fitness and all of that. So it's maintaining this important open space resource for the community. So what have we been doing since we have been started? It takes a while to document an existing site. We build 3D models of the site. We build actually plans, site plans and floor plans documenting existing conditions. This is, after all, a visual exercise when we get to it. We have as well met with city staff who give us insights into the particular constraints, challenges, and opportunities associated with improving these facilities. But I also want to be clear what has not started. There have been no options developed for either of these sites. We are still in the listening phase. We are still in the hearing from you phase before generating any options. So there have been no proposals made for any part of the site. And in fact, the next phase, which will be starting essentially in November, there will be many options. And it's an iterative process based on your input that will allow those options to evolve. So we have divided this process into 3 phases. The current one we are in, called discovery, which is really just our fact finding, how we learn about the site, both physically and operationally, document that site. As I said, we're dealing with buildings and land, so having accurate documents of those existing conditions are what we have been involved with. And it is the start of our public outreach with you. That's followed starting at the end of this year and going through the first part of next year with the option development phase. And that's where we take what we're hearing from you. We take the opportunities and challenges and we look at what are the ways in which these facilities can be restored, can be improved in any way to deliver better on their intended function, enhancing their function. We will be in that phase also identifying for the city construction and operation costs connected with restoring both facilities. And then the final phase is really just documenting the process so that people are able to see what did we go through, what was essentially the options that were evaluated and the consensus arrived at the end, so that you have a kind of a clear understanding of what was discussed here and what are the options going forward for the city as you plan for the future. Public outreach, of which this is one of them, we have a whole series throughout the 3 phases where we are meeting continually with staff and certainly with the public agencies that have kind of jurisdiction over this project, certainly Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Police and Fire. All of these have impacts on configuration and safety and utilization of these sites, and it's important that we meet with them throughout the process to inform this planning and study process. We have conducted already 1 community meeting, and we will have 2 others, 1 in each of the 2 remaining phases, 1 in option development and then 1 in the final documents phase as well. We've devised 2 meetings like this one based tonight on community sports and recreation. The one on October 28th is about special events and events programming associated with the amphitheater and the community center for that matter. And then, as many of you know, we are reporting and doing the same introduction to your established commission and committee structure, which is also giving us very important feedback on their goals for the study and their sense of what's important and what needs to be attended to. So a total of 21 public meetings where we will be engaging. And I promise for those of you who have sat through a lot of these, the next meetings you're going to starting in November, you're going to start seeing each one of them be quite different in terms of how we present to you options moving forward with this. So tonight's, just to tee up the conversation and just remind you that, again, program drives everything, and hearing from you, what are the programs that are important to you? What do you want to see more of here? We know that it should be and needs to be multi-generational. It needs to be, any facility needs to be multi-purpose. That's really the hallmark of any good public planning, is finding ways to find dual purpose so that we can make things happen in better ways within the existing facility. Some of the things you see on there certainly happen at Junior Seo, but some things may not be happening there. And so it's going to be good to hear from you. Are there programs that you would like to see happen so that you don't have to drive to Melba Bishop to access the kind of recreation programming? And what fits with this neighborhood? What are the particular programs as you look to the future that you would like to see accomplished here? I don't want to limit this as well to just community recreation, because this community center also serves as an important just meeting space, a place particularly for young adults to be, a safe place to be, a safe place to be engaged in productive kind of community building activities. That's an important function of this community center. The mentoring programs that exist in this city, this is where they take place. This is how we actually build strength in our young people in our various communities in the city. And that's a critical function. So that's a part of tonight's discussion too, is what role in terms of important programs need to be accommodated there and how can they better be accommodated there. We had at the bottom there, many of the community centers we're now working on, e-gaming has become a big thing. It's popular among the teens. And so having a place where they can actually engage in that productively. But it is also a meeting space, an assembly space, a place for, again, celebration for the various festivals that happen. There's co-programming that goes on in the community center along with the amphitheater, and we need to know how we can accommodate that. Again, back to that issue of multi-purpose. We do know, just as I'm going to keep restating, that we're going to absolutely maintain what is there. But I think the question before you tonight is how can we improve upon that? I've heard many, many people say at other meetings, don't do this, don't do that, nothing needs to change. I hear that, and I understand that nothing needs to change, but I will add to that just so that we can hopefully begin going further in that conversation. With older buildings, it's pretty rare that nothing needs to be changed. So I'd like to start hearing from you, from your point, what are some of the improvements that are needed there? Getting more specific about what improvements might be there. I've heard loud and clear, nothing should change, but I think the reality is some things have to change. Easy things like air conditioning and ventilation, proper signage for accessible entrance to the facility, all of these things. These are going to have to change, but I'd like to hear from you what you feel would drive some change. What are some of the improvements that would be needed? One example is we do know that there's a basketball court deficit in Oceanside. I've heard loud and clear, don't even propose renovating this facility unless you have other facilities that we can use in the interim. We cannot be down community recreation space in the city during the time that you improve this facility. That just speaks volumes to the issue of the deficit of court space and even community recreation classroom space in the city. And so hearing from you on that is also important. So I just posed a few questions. Again, you can talk to me about anything you want to talk tonight. I will never say that, but just if it's most useful if we can focus again on kind of community recreation programming, sports programming in the facility. So for example, just simple questions. What classes do you like? What are the most popular classes? And are there other classes or programs that you'd love to see there that would fit into your schedule? Because this is for the neighborhood, and we should have things that are in walking distance of the neighborhood and use for the people who live here so that they don't need to drive across town. So hearing what are the things that could be, as you envision the future, added at this community center. And back to the question I asked, are there physical conditions you would improve or change in order to better support sports and recreation program? Just let me know. You use the facility. Let me know what can be improved in order to improve the delivery of those important classrooms. I do want to highlight a key thing. I know very clearly that we've been in a year of COVID. I know it's shut down. I know programming's not happening. You can sit and tell me that it's not open. I get that. And I think we know that. I'd like to try to focus again on a future where we're going to open this facility. It's going to be open and it's going to be used. Let's plan for the future. Let's think about the future as we go forward. So I hear that. It's closed, and so we can talk a lot about it. It's closed, nothing's happening, but let's plan, let's think about the future when it actually is open and help me understand the programming that goes on there. So related to that, at the community center, are the size and number of classrooms sufficient? Is it just right? Too few? Could you use one more classroom? Are they the right size for a type of class that you would take or that any of your neighbors would want to take or your community or your young people would want to take? I pose the question, these are just to tee up your thoughts. What about ventilation? I've heard some people say, God, we're at the beachfront, open this thing up to let us just see where we are. Let's see the daylight. Let's see the ocean environment. Let's see where we are. Are there opportunities in any way to improve upon that connection of indoor and outdoor as we think about it? And then that ties up as well. Don't think about just the indoor. What are the opportunities for outdoor programming? I've already heard loud and clear about the conflicts with the plaza in front of Junior Seau. About the issue of vendors and vendor space conflicting with that. It'd be good to hear from you. What are the opportunities for programming, be it the community events or whether it's tied to recreation? A lot of wonderful things can happen just outside of the community center in the open air to help and serve our kids with their programming. And so that's really it, just to tee those up and hopefully encourage a good conversation with you as we go forward to this evening. Thank you.
Okay. As I mentioned before, we don't have request to speak cards or the kiosk out. So if anybody wants to come down and make a public comment, come on down to the podium, state your first, last name, and you'll have 3 minutes. So come on down, just like The Price is Right.
Anyone want to be the first one?
Mary Lou De La Rosa, come on down.
I don't want to be too far away.
Yeah, where do you want to sit?
Oh, you could go to that podium right there. That one's already turned around. Yeah.
Again, it's big.
I know. I'm vaccinated, so. Oh, so am I. I'm Mary Lou De La Rosa, and I live in Oceanside, and zip code 92054. My experience in both the community and the band shell is we had a symphony concert there. We had it's a sit-down dinner symphony concert. And at the community, we have the Seroptimus Salad Luncheon, the famous salad luncheon. And it is definitely at that time when we had the symphony, it was, you know, the sound system, definitely, you know, like you said, it's old. It needs to be upgraded. Just like if I want to share to you about my experience at Vista Amphitheater, the Moonlight Amphitheater there, I was on the board, and we were able to do the basic and then into a very state amphitheater in Vista. And I always call it, it's a secret jewel of Vista. And I think Oceanside can have that too. Just like the Shell right now at the Embarcadero in San Diego. I think we can able to keep that intact. The word restore, of course, you know, if it's needs to be done for earthquake, right? Or the sand movement. But I think having all these hotels, having a place for congregation for people in the community to come in that place, it's a jewel. Just like I always tell in Vista when in the amphitheater, it's a secret jewel that needs to be shared. And it's definitely a lot of function that we can use for, you know, concert. Let me see, I gotta look at my note, I forgot. Broadway, you know, a Broadway, they have performance arts. Tourism is part of it because you have there is generate some taxes, multi-purpose. Since we have this pandemic, everything is outdoor. What a perfect area, right? And I love those villages because you can go exercise up and down, up and down. And they have like concert. Is my time up? It's red already.
You could definitely wrap up your comments.
Timer.
You could definitely wrap up your comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I was like, what? It's red already? Did I speak that? But it is, I mean, I do have memory great because two of my two daughters graduated in that place. It's not about, it's not even that memory. It's about for the community, for the citizen of this city of Oceanside that needs to have a place that the band shell, we can call it band shell, whatever, something, whatever. But it has so many, like you said, multi-purpose use. And as you do in your study, think about those multi-purpose use for that place. Amphitheater, the concept, performing arts. I have so many experience having that place. Yes, it's old, but we can, I'm sure, save it to where we can be a functional. I know the keyword that you have mentioned, functional. So I think having all those be more useful for the city, for the visitor, the tourism. Just don't erase it, restore it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make public comment? Feel free to come on down and step up to the podium, state your first and last name, and feel free to make any public comment you want. Yeah, come on down. Come on down.
Good evening, everyone, including all the audience people. Thank you for coming. My name is Genevieve Wonder, and I am a resident of Oceanside. I've been to many meetings, okay? And I'd like to say that I'm very thankful that you have changed your agenda, okay, to include the community and are interested in our comments. This is our band shell. Okay, but as I go through this whole process, I'm thinking, why is the band shell so important? There's not another band shell on the coast of San Diego, except for the new one downtown San Diego. We don't have anything that is as beautiful as this one is. Okay, someone can sit in the audience, look at the concert, and look at the ocean. You don't have that. You've been to Del Mar's concerts in the park? They're on the beach, yeah, but you're on the grass and you're facing north, okay? The sunset comes, it's beautiful. But everybody in Del Mar has to get up and turn around and look around. If you're in Oceanside, face forward. Okay, so not only is the band shell important to the community as an event place, because we have many cultures that have been having events there, many activities for the military, for the high school. We all know all this. Any one of you, I'm sure, have been to all of these events because they're very important to our community. So that's the reason that we should keep our band shell exactly the way it is with renovations. As anything, everything gets old. Me too, okay? Everybody here is going to get old. Everybody here is going to have work done to them, right? Why not buildings, okay? But we need to put our interest into that to keep this not only for us, for the next generation. The next generation should benefit from what we do now, as our grandparents did for us. So not only is it important to keep the band shell, the rec center for the community, but we have a bonus that other cities don't have, and that we have it named after Junior Seau. That is our bonus and our draw. So that's all I got to say. And I'm saying it from my heart. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to talk? Feel free to come on down. Say your first and last name. Sheila Cada, come on down. You're the next contestant. And there are some seats in the front, so if anybody wants to talk after Sheila, feel free to come on down, and we have some available seating up front. All right, whenever you're ready, Sheila.
Okay, I've lived all over the United States. I've lived in Montana, I've lived in New Mexico, I've lived in Idaho, I've lived in Colorado, I've lived in Oregon, I've in New York, I've lived in the East, West, everything. And you know something? I love Oceanside. I know Oceanside is the best city in the whole United States. And I've lived all over it because of the people, because of the weather, because of everything. And one thing that people know about is people talk about is Junior Seja. And they associate Junior Seja with Oceanside. And I think I'm glad we're not going to tear down the community center. I think that maybe enlarging it and improving it and having even more things there would be good. And the band shell, making it bigger and better, improving it would be wonderful because people use it. And I have many good memories of going to see, people graduate at the band shell, of music things, of all kinds of stuff, talks and everything. So, we really need, the people of Oceanside want to keep the community center and they want the band shell. And I think that's what we should do. And we got to keep it going because we're Oceanside. We're the best city there is. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, Arlene Hammerschmidt. Know a lot of people in the audience, and thank you for coming. Where the heck is everybody else, right? And this my statement comes from my experience teaching not only at Oceanside High School, physical education, but also when I was going into college, I worked in recreation. So what's missing at the beach center is the aloha. Right now, there's a lot of people who don't come there, not because of COVID, but because we don't feel welcome and we don't feel equal or accepted. So it's not just COVID. COVID's rather an excuse. In the response in regarding both facilities, cost can be, or cost determines the access to community. So my opinion is that community members should pay less and out-of-towners should pay more. Are you guys good questions? Are you going to answer questions tonight? Is the meeting being recorded, but not yet? Who started, who, when, where started this push for phase 2? Okay, now from experience of teaching physical education, and there are some of my former students in the audience, I feel like you could run these programs from that center. These activities you may not have heard about, but that's all right. Pig ball, Frisbee basketball, Frisbee ultimate, team ultimate or doubles indoor or in the sand. Salsa fitness, jazzercise used to run on that stage, like I don't know how many years ago. Hip hop step aerobics, jump rope for heart, dance aerobics, strength and fitness. I'm not going to stop. Over the line in the sand, which means the sand needs to be more available. Volleyball leagues, indoor and on the sand. Basketball leagues, open gym for basketball and volleyball, which used to be, and the next one, badminton. I used to drive when I lived in Leucadia to come to Oceanside to play badminton. Skating, skateboarding, dance, where kids go learn the steps and hip hop and everything else. Forgot what that says. Belly dancing, social dances for youth. Sand soccer, sand rugby, power walking groups, outdoor half-court basketball, yoga, tai chi, judo, self-defense, taekwondo, that whole list. Art classes, how to grow your own food, tumbling, gymnastics. And a lot of those could be run with the center as a hub of the organization. And I want to tell you, some people would think that 13 to 18-year-olds won't do that. I'm here to tell you different. We did, and kids loved it. It all depends on who's teaching it and who's leading it and if they lead with their heart, if they love and appreciate their students and listen to those students as well. Thank you. I almost made it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Mary Sayal. I am the former NFL Junior Sayal sister. So in regards to the Junior Sayal Community Center, it does need replacing of a lot of things like piping, wall. I also was thinking about maybe we should bring Junior Sayal Community Center name up on the wall itself rather than on the ground where everyone parks, eats there, hides his name. You can't see it when cars passes by. Again, did not build height-wise, just keep the height of the gym as is. And for the amphitheater, I do understand that there are a lot of things that needs to be repaired, but I'm just asking if we can please keep it the way it looks. And maybe up somewhere in that area, maybe we can put Junior Sayal Amphitheater as well. Junior did a lot of work. He was born and raised here, and he went to Laurel Elementary School. He went to Jefferson Junior High School, and he went to Oceanside High School. He had 2 offers, scholarship, basketball and football. He took football. After USC, he got drafted to the Chargers, and he played Chargers, NFL. And he came back and gave back to the community. Not only he gave back to the community, his kids practiced the workout here on the amphitheater. And in behalf of Junior's kids, Tyler, Sydney, Jake, and Hunter, I'm asking you to please keep his name on both buildings. Do not take it away, even though the city is trying to do that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to make a public comment? Feel free to come on down. Going once? No? Anybody? No? No pressure. Yeah, we just like to hear from as many people as we can.
Hi, my name is Nicole Thompson. I live here in Oceanside. I hate public speaking. Sorry. Yeah, I think everything that has been said already is really important. We do need better sound at the band shell and in the community center as well. Upgraded electronics capabilities, like someone said, e-gaming, you said is huge. I have a 14-year-old son. Yeah, it's a big deal. The basketball is great. Someone else, I think, said pickleball, that anything activity related, competition related, great. Let's improve the bathrooms, the ventilation, just really sexy stuff, I know, but it needs to be done. And then I think if there's a way to really make it so people can come and feel welcome, the lights are off a lot and the kids need it at night. We need weekend, we need flexibility of what they can do. If they want to go play with their friends, they may not want to go play basketball, but if there's something else they can do in the gym at that time and it's flexible and it's open and the people at the door are saying, yes, come in, I can help you with that. We really haven't had that feedback when we've knocked on the door. If we wanted to go play basketball, it was closed or it was open for like an hour or two here or there. Really need it to be open when the kids can come and use it. And affordable, like she said, for locals, people who live here. I have family that comes in, they're willing to pitch in more when they come and visit, but they understand it's a community center. If kids could get a waiver, if they can afford it, or pay for a monthly fee instead of every time they drop by, that might be an idea as well. But thanks for taking public feedback.
Anybody else? Come on down.
Good evening. My name is Jimmy Figueroa. I grew up going to the rec center. As a kid, I used to go there for quinceañeras. People would rent it out and utilize the space. In middle school, the city of Oceanside, the Parks and Recs would host a a dance on the third Friday of every month, and it was called the Galaxy. And it was for Oceanside Unified School students. And so you needed your middle school ID to get in. And it was from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Everyone looked forward to the Galaxy on the third Friday of every month. And that, I think, ran for several years. My older brother did it, who was 4 years older than me. And I know it went many years after I did. Open basketball is something that I spent a lot of time playing at the rec center. I think the model is simple. You want to have a place for kids to go somewhere after school. And then during the day, you want to have a space where our community can utilize the space. So when I hear aerobics and steps and all this other stuff, this is stuff that the community can use it during the day. But after school, you want to have it available and open. That includes programming, but that also just having an accessible site. During the weekends, you run rec programs, whether it's soccer season, indoor soccer, hockey, basketball, volleyball. It's a simple model. And then you make it accessible to the community if they ever wish to rent it out. And I think it's the same thing for the amphitheater. We see that roller skating is big right now. So allowing the community to be able to access that site and gather and put on events and organize events and make it a simple process and also an affordable process for community members. So that's just my input. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to make a public comment? Come on down, Eric Joyce.
Good evening. I'll be really brief. It's pretty much what's been said, but I want to make sure we have enough tally marks beside that so that it shows up as something that's really important. Just making sure that the Junior Seau Community Center is youth programming focused, especially in the evenings and night times and the weekends. While I understand that you're asking for programming specific requests, but if the space is big and flexible like a large gym is, then it can accommodate a diversity of programs. We have many wonderful nonprofits that could also benefit from a free meeting place. So prioritizing their use and their open use, making sure that, again, it's free, especially to our youth. Please restore the space with public funds. And that's important so that we're not selling a piece of its future use that the community should have access to. Understand that the value of the place is not in the future money that can be made from it or events that we can sell out. It's really about having an open and accessible space for our public. Thank you.
My name's Shanley Sale, and the points that others have already made, there's the biggest one is right now, yes, there's COVID. But what you also have to take into account is the business hours are from 1 to 5. Fridays are 1 to 4. When is anyone going to be utilizing those services? They can't. They're all either in school, at work, and the Saturdays and Sundays, it's closed. So like the gentleman before me stated, it has to be available. So at that point, you're also having to take into account the other recreational facilities such as YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, anything to that effect. So with recreation being our focus tonight, that needs to be implemented. And all of those locations all have weights. They have a weight room. They have other services that can be provided to those who are paying for them. So simple, grab a model that works for those in the community center, but also utilize and implement the ones that haven't been resourced based off of the ones that we currently have. Why is it that volleyball and basketball are only provided at certain locations, but not at all of them? That comes down to whoever's in charge of the facilities. So that's another reason why there's a lot of folks that are here currently asking why aren't those folks here? Those are questions that we could have answered right here and expand on what we have to say, but we can't if they're not here. So weights, additional services, and yes, the signage for the community center itself is on the roundabout, if you will. So no one's going to see it unless you know and you've been down that area. So by expanding and going into that like plaza area and putting the sign to where people can actually see it from the beach, from the pier coming down, you make it easier for folks to know where things are. And yeah, there's a lot of other things that can be done, but at this current moment, whoever is in charge of these services and programs needs to have a little bit more of a heart for the community as opposed to having it only available for 4 hours. Thank you.
Come on down. And as I mentioned, we have some free chairs down here. So if you want to wait down here, you can. All right, go right ahead. Nope.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Brunson. I've been in this community forever. My kids born and raised here. One reason I come up here, I hear people talking, but we use the amphitheater for the Christian. We had the Easter programs here, everything. And that's very important to my heart. That's why I said, let me come down here. I was sitting down there, I was debating to see what is somebody gonna mention. That thing is more important to the historic monument here. When I first came here, I came here in the late 60s. That was where everybody meet because I retired from the military. We meet there, and that was place in my heart. And it said, we go down here and we just sit down there and talk. And then now I go down there and mentor to the kids that you turn something down, junior thing, because I remember you used to go down swimming with junior and everything. That's very important because it's like a historic thing. You turn down like a piece of my heart, stuff like that. That's all I had. Thank you, sir.
I am Lisa Russell, born and raised Oceansider. I hear all the hopes and dreams of the audience here, and I see a good presentation. I mean, it gets better and better each time. I think a few things change. I've been to a lot of these meetings. I'm just hoping that we can implement the youth at the Junior Seau Center and keep the amphitheater. I would like it to be affordable, like everybody's saying. Also, I know money, I haven't heard where money's coming from, and I don't know how much money we have to do all this, but I think I heard something in the beginning. If we spend over so much money, we have to make it ADA accessible or make it up to date. And that doesn't concern me, but the money concerns me. I don't know where we're going to get it, but I'm hoping that we keep it in the city. I hope that the city runs our centers and programs. I already see the hotels down there on the beach with tables, handing out boards and chairs and stuff. And that's not, that part of the beach south of the pier is not for the hotels, it's for everybody. So I think that they're just handing it to their patrons. And I think that's nice, but I don't think that that part of the beach is cut out for the hotels. I haven't been to the hotels yet. I don't think I can afford those hotels, but they look nice. And maybe one day I'll get up there, I don't know, but I'm just hoping that the city can take control and keep the centers open longer. Badminton, I used to work for the city and I worked at the Beach Community Center, and I was there at 5 to 6 every Saturday because those people were in the parking lot ready to play badminton, and they even helped me set everything up. I mean, you build the programs, the people will come. You supply welcoming personnel that are going to welcome the youth, welcome the elderly, they will come. But we just have to get back to that, I'm hoping. And I would even be a volunteer down there. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. And thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Sam Pomelli, basically born and raised in Oceanside. My first meeting here, I was kind of like in the dark, really didn't know what to expect, but from that meeting to this meeting and what I hear, a lot of good thoughts. First of all, I just want to make sure I'm on the right page here. So what I hear from you guys initially, there is no concern with the removal of the beach band shell or the community center itself, correct? Okay, because basically when we get on that topic, the one word that I think needs to be clarified for the majority of people, especially people I talk to in the community, is that the concern really for them is very basic. The reason why you're getting this response from us is no change is because they're talking in reference of you're happy with the programs where they're at, you're happy with the community center and the beach as it sits, and all the activities that have come down through history that still take place there. So what the fear is really is that with change comes a lot of change. A lot of the change is hidden. It's kind of like I put it this way, to be led into one room, which let's call the room restoration. A restoration room shouldn't have another doors within that room. If we're going to go into restore, we go restore, we finish, we get out. But if we're talking in the sense of upgrades or anything, the fear and concern for the community is that room has other doors. Because once you go into restoration, you're in there to restore, we're out. That means we're not changing the features, how the building sits. In this sense, we're talking about historical site. And what Oceanside's heart is that our families have grown up down there. Culturally, I come from the Samoan community. Our churches and our parents, when we grew up there, the Beach Community Center is one of the main places, and especially with the amphitheater, that we held a lot of our church and cultural communities. So when you talk to our communities, that's going to be the first thing we're going to say is, what are they changing and why? So the concern for us is, what's going to change? And if we look at it in this day and age, the citizens are much more aware of how things kind of pan out, especially when we go into these kind of projects. So when we're talking restoration versus upgrade, the first thing that we're going to think of, okay, everything, as we've already heard, where's the money coming from? So when we say change and we're going to put up these fancy buildings or whatever we do, if we go down that road, the way that equates to us is, okay, so this is what we've been paying for, and this is what the services that we've enjoyed for decades. How is that going to change that? Because at the end of the day, that is what the community looks at. When I go down to ask for use of these facilities, whether it's for my church, whether it's for our cultural group, what am I prepared to face? Well, what we see from our side, from experience in other arenas that we've seen these discussion take place, is the prices go up. Fancier the building, the bigger the building. Same thing, you go to a low budget hotel, you pay a low budget price. You go to a nice facility, you're going to pay a nice price. So the cost is, is also attached to the changes, that we think we hear. For me, I like the PowerPoint so far at this point in the sense that, we see the buildings and the amphitheater staying, as you pointed out. We're looking more at it as a restoration. And why? Because of those financial concerns and where we're going to be headed, depending on which, road path we decide to take. What does the buildings need? They definitely need new bathrooms, like you said, air conditioning, the basics. Those need to be upgraded. Also, when you go down that road, we're going to be dealing with legislation as far as now all of a sudden, it's kind of like how much of this thing is going to be grandfathered in. And if we make changes, where do the new laws are going to now come in demand versus just restoring what we have? So that's another decision. It's the same thing as if you're restoring, rebuilding a home. There's a criteria that goes into grandfathering and not grandfathering. The easiest way for me to keep that short is that treat it like the mission. We've grown up in Oceanside. The mission standing down there has been that way since day one. They seem to remodel that thing every 15 years roughly. And when they go in, they remodel it. And whatever safety issues they have to do, they take care of. But we go down there today, it's still the same mission we grew up seeing our whole lives. So when our community is saying, don't change the cosmetics on the face of the building because it holds historical value, that's what we're talking about. And as far as programs are concerned, I would have liked to see the Parks and Rec person here because we're talking about all these programs, but how are they feasible according to the allotted time availability? Because we've got all kind of programs. We can say this program, but how are you going to make the scheduling match and equitable for everybody who wants to have a program? Because you're going to find out after you do the studies, you're going to be able to knock off the programs right away that probably are not going to give you the time or the response for those programs who allot them a greater time than, say, a demanding program. So with on that note, I think a lot of the pushes is that we fight for our programs that have served us for years. So I would have to say honestly, I'm looking at them as priority because they have served us for years. So they should have the first seat in what programs and hey, we need this or they should have this discussion. But it would have been nice to have that Parks and Rec director here so she can tell us a little bit about the pressures that she has to face and the demands that she's confronted with. Because from what we're hearing out here is a lot of times our groups are not able to access these buildings, whether it be the price or it's due to scheduling. So I think I said enough tonight, don't you? Okay. So anyway, that's pretty much how we see it. Thank you.
Anybody else like to come on down? Yep.
Good evening. My name is Gordon Chavez. I grew up here in Oceanside, and my wife and I are now raising 4 boys here in Oceanside. So my interest, I guess, is in the youth in the future. I took some notes. So I think resident-focused accessibility is important, and that has to do with both the construction side and the city side as far as programs. Multicultural use is super important. These festivities and gatherings need to feel like they belong and like this is their home when they come together and hold their the festivities, I guess, the events. Youth programs, youth safety, lighting, how the entrances and exits are designed, staffing. If the city believes in our community, it'll invest in our youth and in those programs. Affordability, recreational use, but also personal development and growth use, whether it's career building or youth empowerment, things like that. And then I think the last thing is just maintaining parkland status. I think that's what it is now. So maintaining that status, I think, would be very important. Thank you.
Anybody else? Do you want to go to Zoom? If you are on Zoom and wish to make a comment, please use the raised hand feature right now, and we'll call the people on Zoom. If you wish to make a comment, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you if you are currently on Zoom. And seeing no hands raised, we don't have any comments on Zoom.
Well, I appreciate your time and the comments you've given. And I know there's a couple questions I'll try to do my best to answer from the ones I noted. And this is a study. So this isn't a design. It's not a construction. It's a study just to see what improvements could be done, if any. Currently, the beachfront improvement project, phase 1, is under construction. That is a project that has grant funding as well as city funding. So when it comes to funding sources for this area, if we move forward with it pending council direction, grant funding is always an opportunity. I understand the comments and concerns about private funds and using that. I can't say what funding, again, has been set aside because we are just in the initial study phase. But again, grant funding is a huge opportunity that we try to pursue. This is being recorded. This presentation is recorded, so we will put it on the study website so that anyone that couldn't be here tonight could hear the comments as well as provide comments in the future. And it is a big subject. And so I want you to know that taking these comments in, I know that there's comments and concerns with some of the Parks and Rec programming. And so since it is a higher level conversation with some of the directors, I want to make sure that we gather all this information because we are having conversations with them, just like Steve had reiterated, with multiple departments. So we're trying to take all this information and have those continuous conversations with them. Again, I really appreciate your time because you're taking your time on all of these meetings, on the commission and committee meetings, to be here. You know, I'm available after for any comments you want to add too, but I do want to reiterate that we are in the discovery phase still. And we did have that large attendance at our first public outreach meeting, which was fantastic, as well as tonight. And when we do move to the option development phase, we want to get all the information out there about when we're going to have those meetings. So we can have, again, all you come, and as well as everyone else, and we can talk about this in more detail too. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add tonight, Steve, or? Yeah, I mean, again, I'll do my best to answer any of the questions that you have. So at this time, if not, I can get back to you. It does get recorded, so it would.
It would probably help if she uses the microphone, so that way.
Yeah, that way if
It's on the record somehow. Yeah.
And again, I know it's a big room, so just feel it's an intimate big room.
So I thank you for taking and trying to answer questions. My other question, and thank you for answering the first one about, yes, this is being recorded. So it can be reviewed and analyzed or referred to. My other question was, what, who, or when initiated the second phase? I mean, I know the first phase, you know, what the first study and the recommendations for the first phase was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know what initiated the first phase, but it's almost finished. But my question is, what or who or when, what was pushed for phase 2 to get started? What was the switch?
My understanding is that it started, I think, back in around 2006, 2007 with the Waterfront Vision Plan, looking at improvements to the beachfront and waterfront area. And since that time, the city has been implementing smaller projects along the corridor with the bathroom projects that have been under construction. And then beachfront improvements, which is under construction now, was, I guess, identified as the first phase. And I wasn't part of that, so I don't know all the history on it, but the most recent phase, this phase right now, the study, the staff report was prepared in our city manager's office, through the city manager's department, and authorized through, I believe, council funding this initial study phase in that continuation of these improvements we've been doing along the beach. So it has been a project that's been going on for a while, and we're just continuing it as we go. So that's why it's called phase 2, is it's in proximity and it's the continuation of improvements in that area.
Okay, I think I got the picture. Thank
And
you.
I am trying, you know, it's hard because
you haven't been on it for a long time.
I haven't
so
been
you
on
don't
it for a
know
long
all the
time.
history.
Yeah, but I do know that we had several project managers working on those smaller projects. So it's just the culmination of various improvements along that waterfront area. And again, I think because of the proximity of the area, the focus was on that first one, and we did get the grant for it to help fund it. And now we're seeing what the public is interested in for these areas and how we can proceed.
It sounds to me like you're saying that this phase 2 was initiated from the city manager's office somewhere.
Yes, that was when I had come on board with the city, because I've been here, long story short, I've been here for, it was 12 years. I left for a brief period of time and came back on, and that was right when this phase 2 started. So that's how I'm getting kind of caught up with everything on this. So it did initiate within the city manager's office, and I'm now the project manager of it. So.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is, you guys are meeting, we had a lot of meetings, and you said that you guys speak to all these different departments. So when it comes down to that point when everything had been completed, because what I've been hearing with Steve, those of you guys don't know, this is Steve right here. Because all the meetings that I've gone to, Steve had been fighting for us. The council would say, well, if it's going to cost that much, why don't we just demolish the place? And then Steve says, no, this is not what the residents want. So I'm going back after all this is done, who has the vote, the final vote?
So, and so the final, this item, this study, and I want to let you know that we have been continually listening to feedback and trying to improve things as we go. And so one of the big comments we got at the beginning was having Parks and Recreation be a commission that gave a formal recommendation on the study. So that's one thing I want to let you know, that as we go through this process, we go to our different commissions and committees, have our workshops and our conversations. We're going to be gathering all this information. And then ultimately, we want to get to that option development phase where we look at all the potential options we could do, whether it's just plumbing, electrical, or maybe, going into the hillside and putting in some storage, whatever that is, but we'll have those conversations. And then ultimately the options would be brought to our commissions and committees, but Parks and Rec would make a formal recommendation to City Council. And it will go to City Council with what the recommended design option is for them to make a formal vote on it. And that would determine if future funding for design would be allocated to the project and construction funds, or to pursue grant funds for it. So ultimately, it will be City Council that makes the formal decision on it based on Parks and Rec's recommendations. And so Parks, this is going to be an item, again, we've taken it to Park and Rec Commission in addition to all of our other commissions, so that they're aware of it. It's and it's going to go back to Parks and Rec. Well, and I just want to let you know, it is going to go back to Parks and Rec. And so that date will be published, advertised, so that everyone can come and provide comment for them to listen before they make any recommendation on it. And it will ultimately be on a proposed option that is kind of narrowed down through all of this feedback. And so,
Don't take your paycheck if you don't want to do the work. She needs to be here.
I can't speak for the Parks and Rec commissioners, but I can let you know as the project manager, I am, having conversations with Park and Rec staff as well as other staff.
I feel like the whole consensus in the room is that the first meeting, they weren't here.
Yeah.
This meeting, they're still not here. That's the problem. They're here
Well-
asking for them, yes, it's on a commission.
Mhm.
And yes, you're essentially like giving them a summary of what happened. But what good is the summary if they weren't here to hear us?
Well, so we do have some Park and Rec staff here, but I also don't want to put them on the spot either, because they can't speak for all of Parks and Rec. That is the management decision on that. But and I do know that they wanted, I can only speak so much. But that's why we're here and we're listening, and they're here and listening as well. And we're talking with them. So again, we're going to have more. Okay.
Which is clearly shown in the business hours. Because how do you have a community center where it's out of threshold? You see where our.
Yes. Yeah. No. I don't take it. I don't take it.
So I have something to say.
Yes.
Okay, I was here at one of the meetings when Judy was here, and she was talking about the schedule, and she had a nice PowerPoint on how full the schedule.
Mhm.
And she was talking about the application of renting out the facility here for any kind of events.
Mhm.
When I came up, she walked out. She didn't want to hear what I had to say. And that what I said that evening, so everybody will know, that I have a foundation called Mary Say CTE Foundation. And I had filled out an application to have a 5K run event to be done here.
Mhm.
I had completed my application, I turned it in, and then they said that I needed more information. I gave them that information. Then they said I needed more money. I had to call my broker, and I told my broker I needed more money for the insurance part. And then they said, no, I needed more money. Before you knew it, it was $1,000. And my broker said, I've never spent this much money on insurance to do an event. What are they doing to you? And then it was so exhausting that I left here to go to Guajome Park. And then the next year, the same thing with the girls softball tournament. Same thing, I did the application. So what she had said that evening is not true. The application, it's who she knows and who she likes. And that's how it was, that's what I was told. And that's how I took it. And that's what I had expected from her. So if she had sat here to hear what I had to say, because what she said was false. So, and that's what everybody here is saying, is that her calendar is not it's not reality.
Well, and I appreciate the example you gave. And so I don't take anything personally because I know this is a discussion. And I can't speak for all your past experiences at any of these facilities, but I can say that we're here to listen and it's not going unheard. And I know you may or may not have heard that from other people, but as the person actively working on this now, we've had conversations, you'll see me a lot, hopefully, that this information, this recording, all of these conversations we are having, I don't want to put anyone on the spot here in that, this is our discussion. And I don't know if that's really fair to do that person either, but I do think it's fair to listen to all your feedback and your comments and let you know that Steve's put it perfectly before, that the programming drives function. And so what we want to know in these conversations helps us, like he said, for the future use too. So I know that there's actual process concerns that can get looked at, but if there's any programming for future, that's an opportunity we can look at having conversations with Park and Rec staff like Melba Bishop, where they've got 4 to 5 classrooms, and this one has 2, one of which right now has the police substation in it, which eventually is going to move over to the beachfront. So that will free up some space, but it helps us through these conversations to know if those 2 are sufficient or the layout of them. So again, I know I can't answer everything, but I am listening. So, hi.
Okay, I'm here as a citizen, but I'm also a park commissioner. Okay. And from the get-go, I believe and this is my personal opinion, that you guys came in the back door versus going straight to the Parks and Rec Commission and presenting this plan. And that's why we're having all these problems right now. Because had you come in the front door, straight to Parks and Rec Commission, then all of this could have been avoided because we could have reached out to the community. But now we're having to play catch up. We're having to get all these negative comments on the plan because you can't come in the back door here in Oceanside. You have to be straightforward with the community. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Wait. Again, I don't want, I want us to listen, but I also don't want to, I want to be fair, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot because it can be very intimidating as someone who's up here right now, but we are listening. And so I want you to know that, that we're very cognizant of how Parks and Rec is part of this and how we did have a rough start at the beginning. The approach we didn't start with the right foot, but we're trying to remedy that. And so, because we are invested. And so, but go ahead, I know you had your hand up. Thank you.
So in attempts to remedy it, you just mentioned that we're needing to move forward with programming. How do we move forward with programming if we don't know the history of the programming from the director? Again, who's not currently present. But in order for us as the community members, we know what we've experienced, what we've attended, but what else, however long she's been in office, she's seen additional services and programs that worked. So there's history there, But none of us know that because she's the one who's in charge and is not currently here. So how do we, as the community, remedy anything or even speak on that if we don't know the true history?
Well, I appreciate because you are speaking from your experience at least, which is something that we can gain from. But again, well, and I know it is no answer. I'll be honest, it's a no answer because I also don't want to have someone come up here and get, okay. And I'm going to defer to Steve because Steve puts things a little bit better sometimes than I do. So differently.
I think the order and sequence, which is what you're getting at, why are we talking to you without having the director here or staff? One attitude is rather than staff telling you stuff, we wanted to hear from you first. We are getting information from staff. I have had meetings where I understand programming, scheduled programming, what's happened, what is desired going forward. All the things, even down to how, and everyone here has made a good point, and I want to completely register this, that it is fully clear to me that this is both something that has to be addressed operationally and physically. That's clear to me. I'm not missing any of that. There is an operational thing here that's hand in glove with the physical conditions that we are talking here. I think the sequencing that you're all frustrated about, why aren't they here? We really wanted you to take the time to tell us, in your words, your experience. We're going to get that from staff, and it's all going to come together. This is an iterative process. It doesn't all happen in one meeting and at one time. This is a complex thing. So there is a sequence, and the point is to hear from you first, unfiltered, through what staff has to say or what they want or what they did in the past or any of that. I again encourage you, we will get that information. All of that will be coming out in a lot of detail as we go forward. But the sequence that I think is the heart of your question, we wanted to hear from you first and directly, unfiltered, if that makes any sense. And you can ask me any questions on that. We do this a lot in terms of helping communities. This is I do want to address another thing. No city council can make decisions without a community behind them. So the fact that you're in attendance and that your passion is here, that's dangerous territory to do things that are against what a community wants to do. I've worked for many, many, many cities, and it's incredibly difficult to get outside of that. So your involvement in this is crucial to the outcome. Your continued involvement and your continued engagement with this process is crucial to the outcome.
Hi, my name is Wilson Goodney, and I'm new to the Parks and Rec Commission. So one thing that I grew up here in Oceanside, probably know a lot about where the mop is inside the community center. Had to clean up a few spills at the luau's we've had back then. But when are you guys going to do like a workshop where we can see what you guys have come up with, like a model of how you want to redo the community center?
It's a really good question. I've been super honest with you. We're not starting any of that until we hear from everybody. So we still have a couple of commission meetings. We have that other focused meeting that's really about, and I do encourage, because I heard discussions about Easter services, the community focused meeting on events and special events. That's a key time to come and talk about that programming and those functions there. It was good to hear it here, but please come to that, because that's going to shift in focus to the cultural celebrations, the festivals, how those can be improved. And I'm hearing this loud and clear, what are the barriers to it happening? I've heard this before. Sometimes for nonprofits to have to go through the hoops of insurances and paying for security and waste and trash removal at the sites. This is a burden. And so this is why I say it's both an operational and a physical thing that has to be addressed hand in glove. These are all going to come to the surface as you as a community plan for these facilities that will better serve you. They do go hand in glove. It doesn't all happen at one meeting. Trust me, we're gathering this information, and I've done this many, many, many times with many communities. And you're in the driver's seat in terms of, so to answer your question, there will be a workshop.
Right.
So
So
I hope you can see what's teed up at that workshop, because I heard a huge list of programs, huge. I couldn't even write it all down. I'd like it sent to me. But I want you to appreciate my dilemma. How am I
Yeah.
going to get that huge list into that community center? Can anyone, how am I going to get that huge list? That's just math and geometry. Schedule, but that's my challenge, is that's a huge wish list, huge. So I want everybody to understand that when you say to me, nothing can change, and yet I want all of these things here for my children and grandchildren, the future. That's my challenge. And we had a meeting with Wayne one time, and I think we were talking, and he said, and I do encourage, let's be creative. Let's have some creative thinking. Just because we think about it doesn't mean it will happen. We can think about it and say, that was a horrible idea, toss that out. I tell you, you did not hire this firm to just come talk about the paint on the building and fixing the air conditioning. That's not why you brought us into this process. You have some challenges, and I'm going to really focus on the programming for your youth. You have some challenges relative to the number of classrooms and the size of classrooms. That's just a fact, and you know it as a PE teacher. That's just geometry. Bodies take a certain amount of space in a classroom. They need a certain ceiling height. They need a sound system. They need storage. They need all of these things. You can't just wish and hope it happens. These are our challenges as we grapple with your wishes. And as we, with the strong and very relevant desire that this be the same facility that you have known and loved. That's our challenge. So let us just engage in the creative thinking. Thinking that's relatively inexpensive, and you can toss every idea we ever come up out the window and say, that team doesn't know what they're talking about. You're in the driver's seat, and be engaged, show up. The next process isn't going to be like this. This is going to be something you're going to be very interested in. I hear things about signage, notification, how you see the buildings. This is all a part of it. How can we actually make these improvements while we are bringing it up to current code? You made a really good point. You can't just quite frankly, there is no such thing as grandfathering things in. Trust me, my life is involved with old buildings. There is no such thing as grandfathering. You really do have a responsibility to actually make buildings accessible, safe, sustainable. That's just a fact in California today. And we will do that because you can do it and lovingly keep that building in its form. That's the job we are tasked with. So I think it's going to be an exciting phase. I wanted to address your specific question. When are you going to see something? When are you going to be able to react to something?
yeah, I just want to know, do you still have it in your mind that you're going to put 2 courts going this way versus 1 court going that way? You mentioned something about that.
I did.
Possibility that you can do that. So, and I think that would be the, just to throw that out there, was something that I think we should do.
Yeah.
It's almost like a basketball court is almost like a standard court that you can do volleyball.
Exactly.
On 2 courts, because I played basketball in there going with the full court, the main court. And I've gone the other way too, and you can go to do a layup and you run right into the wall. So, but if you have 2 courts going that way, anyways, that's what I wanted to see when it would be a good time to see what you guys have come up with. The other thing was with the band shell was like underneath the stage inside the community center, you have all your chairs under the stage. Well, I mean, we still do take the chairs out of there and take them all the way to the band shell to set up the dignitary booth for the city council that comes to some cultural event. So if you do, like I said, just another idea, you can just have the chairs underneath there.
Yeah.
And just shove them back underneath the stage.
It's an excellent point.
Those kind of examples.
For those that you run facilities and have been involved, teachers will say this to me all the time: storage, 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 storage. You can't have enough of it. Nothing is multi-purpose unless I have a place to put the stuff I use for one thing and have a place to put it somewhere else when I need it stored. So storage is everything. So I see my challenges out ahead of me, and especially when I hear don't change a thing. So I've got my challenges and I'm going to work hard to deliver on that. But it is my obligation too, and I ask you to be creative about this. Think about your children, think about your grandchildren. This isn't just for you, this is for them, because cities don't do this often. Trust me, we come into processes like this and cities haven't touched buildings for 50, 60, 70 years, and then they don't touch them again for another 70 years. So this is really a once in a lifetime opportunity to actually achieve meaningful improvement. See it as a positive opportunity, not something to be, I hear the fear. You have a lot to be fearful of. Architects do crazy things. And I've heard loud and clear, we don't want a Santa Monica. We're not San Diego. We're certainly not Carlsbad. We're not Newport Beach. Our job with you is to hit what this community is and what it feels like. And I know exactly what you mean when you say, I don't want a Santa Monica. That looks like Denmark to me when I look at Santa Monica buildings. It doesn't feel like anything to me. Our job here is to tie into your history, which you have a magnificent and a long history that many cities do not have. You even have a distinguished architectural history. You have one of the truly early California modern giants. Many of his buildings here, Irving Gill, which a part of your city hall was an Irving Gill.
Turn that down because I'm going to speak on this.
Oh, someone on Zoom had their hand up to talk and I muted them.
Sorry.
I just had one more thing to say, was that as a new Parks and Rec commissioner, I do want to do an ad hoc committee, and I hope you guys can all support that, to do a deep dive into the whole thing with the programming within these facilities. So I think we're going to have a meeting next month. So yeah.
And there is, thank you. And there is someone on Zoom, so I
Yeah,
want to make sure we hear them and then we can.
Dean Anderson had his hand raised for a while. Dean,
Thank you, Dean.
if you're there, you're free to talk. You are unmuted.
Thank you. Dean Anderson, I'm a resident of Oceanside, and I didn't get a chance during the comments, but I'll make it real quick. Regarding the recreation center, one of the biggest things, my family and I are down there all the time, at least 2-3 times a week, walking and biking. And I think it would be really great. Some of the folks have mentioned this, but I want to reiterate, opening it up in some form to make sure that folks from the outside could see in and be able to view some of the things that are going on inside of there. I think that would be a great thing to do. There's also, the community has obviously put in many different types of activities that we want to be down there. And obviously it's a limited area. So my question is, was there any consideration to look at, because it's kind of one band down there, the little corner, I guess, property where there's some grass and there's a concrete structure just south of the road that goes down to the Strand, into this project as well, so that we have a little bit more room to work with and be able to include all these different projects that people are coming up with?
Thank you, Dean. I'm not 100% sure I know exactly where you're talking about south of the area, but I will say that the image we had earlier, and it shows the beachfront community center through the Pier Plaza, the Bandshell Amphitheater, and it does show that it kind of goes through the beachfront that's under construction now and Betty's Lot, because we're looking at it kind of that holistically as how parking and everything plays into it. So we're looking at, there's many potential areas within on site that we could potentially expand on. I'll give an example. The concrete planter areas underneath the pier right now, that may or may not be something that we need. Maybe that becomes usable space. Some of the planters up against the slope, that could be usable space. So I'm not 100% sure where that grass area is, but wherever there's.
Dean, are you referring to the linear park? Like you're heading down Seagaze and you make a right, you go to Betty's Lot, you make a left, you go onto Strand, and there's that linear park just right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think he's referring to that area.
Exactly. So we're down there quite often, And it just seems like an underutilized area. And since we're kind of talking about that's one continuous, granted the road drops down there, but to me, it just seems like one continuous space. And maybe we can draw that into this project as well, because, as somebody stated before, we have, some merchants down there. We have a little bit of everything. I would like to see something, as far as courts, somebody mentioned, hey, we have underutilized courts, or not enough courts, I should say, some outdoor courts as well. So if we kind of put those in the same area as the recreation center, then maybe we can move some stuff down and use that space a little bit better. Just a thought.
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate the comment. That's something that we can look into. And I do want to add one thing about upcoming meetings. So I don't have the dates yet we don't have the dates finalized yet for the next phase for the option development. But just like we did for our first public outreach meeting, I'm going to make sure that gets advertised in the newspaper as well as on our social media. We have an interested parties list, but we want to make sure that I want to get a month's notice out for the start of our public outreach for the option development. And like Steve said, it's going to be kind of like this, but more engaged conversation where we sit down and we go through, we talk things through. So, but we will make sure that we get those advertised as soon as we have them. And so again, I want to make sure I get at least a month out there for everyone, because I know everyone's got a lot going on and you're taking your time to be here tonight. So.
It's
Steve.
Stephen. I think I felt in this room like the drop of our collective hearts when you said, no city council in their, whatever it was you said, we're all thinking, you don't know our city council. They don't listen to us a lot.
Genevieve. Wait, who's raising her hand?
I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you, everyone, for speaking up today. This is what our community is about. But I'd like to also extend my personal thanks to you to listen to us, not just hear what we're saying, but actually listen to what our comments are and our concerns are. This is the step in the right direction to resolving all this. And we want our band shell and we want our recreation center. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I just had a quick question for Steve. I know you talked about storage and stuff, so I was wondering if you did any part of your study looking into underground. I know that some of the houses on the Strand were approved for underground parking, and I'm not suggesting parking, but that may be a good storage space, or you could utilize going down if the majority of the community doesn't want to block airspace going up. And then I was wondering if you had any design prospects to utilize us being in sunny Southern California, or having any eco-feasible designs included.
What was the last? I couldn't hear the.
Eco-feasible
Oh, yeah, of course,
designs.
yeah. To the last one, there's no other way to do it in California. It's actually law, and we will be having to meet much greater, and it's not just a have to, we want to and need to meet much higher sustainable standards with better, more efficient equipment, kind of even removal of fossil fuels kind of completely. That's possible now with a lot of mechanical equipment to not have any fossil fuels on the site. Certainly, you all know the easy stuff. Lighting is far more efficient. The lighting that's at the current center is not current state of the art in terms of that. Stormwater management. To your first question, we really haven't studied anything, but you're correct. We have to look at all of the available land opportunities. Underground's a little challenging here because of sea level rise. We have to be super careful about anything about that. But utilizing areas of the site, there's very interesting structures you can do essentially built into hillsides and even putting earth and gardens back on top of them so that you get the utility of the roof as a planted area to act, or a terrace or a place to be, but and accomplish storage, say, under that. So we do have to look at opportunities that are sensitive to the existing building, but are ways in which to potentially expand its utility in a way that you might not even ever see. To your point, it's the same as underground, but not necessarily underground.
I'm still available. We're still here, but I wanted to at least, again, I appreciate your guys' time tonight. If we see you 2 weeks from now, it will be more focused on the cultural events and special events, but we're looking forward to getting any feedback. And again, please make sure and check the website because I want to do my best to get that updated as soon as possible. And I will put this video on there. It'll probably get uploaded next week. So with that, again, thank you for all coming and listening and talking, and I'll see you as we go. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out.